Hi there, and thank you for joining Censored but Not Silenced. I'm Rebecca Koffler, and today I'm going to give you a briefing on some recent findings on the first attempt on former President Donald Trump's life. You may remember that on July 13th, President Trump was almost killed in Butler, Pennsylvania during the rally that he attended. Before we go to these top findings, I will tell you how we got to those. The only reason that this information has become available to us at the unclassified level is because there was one courageous American, and I would call this person an American patriot. He's a whistleblower from one of the agencies. He reached out to the GOP Senator, Josh Hawley, and he disclosed to him information that you are going to find deeply troubling. You're going to be shocked and you're going to be angry. But let me tell you first about what it really means to be a whistleblower. As a former DIA intelligence officer, DIA being the Defense Intelligence Agency, the military counterpart to the CIA, I'm unfortunately very closely familiar with the process, and it is highly, highly risky. When you decide to go on a path against the entire U.S. government machine, the deep state, and that is a very, very dangerous entity, you know that they are going to destroy you. But there's a very real possibility that your career is going to be over because those people don't mess around. If you are not marching in lockstep with the deep state, you're destroyed. That's what typically happens. One of these days, I will do a segment on my own personal experience with the deep state. So this person is extremely, extremely courageous. So before we get to the top revelations, let's remember exactly what happened on that day. On the day, supposedly a lone shooter made it as close as 400 feet within President Trump and fired 8 shots. He had a clear line of sight from the building on the top of the American Glass Research building number 6 in Butler, Pennsylvania. He assumed a shooting position there, right? And he fired 8 shots from his AR-15 rifle. President Trump was struck by gunfire and he was immediately evacuated for medical treatment. But before that, he assured his fellow Americans that he was still alive. So, what did the investigation show us? The investigation may not even be the right word here. Again, the only reason we know about this is because of this courageous American, the whistleblower. So here are the top 6 revelations. There are a lot more things. It's a 22-page report based on the whistleblower's allegations, and we are posting a link to it within the segment, so you would be able to, on your own time, to read through it and learn all of the shocking details. So, first, the Secret Service Counter-Surveillance Division, which performs these assessments of the event sites, did not perform a typical assessment of the Butler site. It was not even present on the day of the rally. Okay? Think about it. There were no dogs, no canines scouting the perimeter. There was no drone technology because the Secret Service personnel declined multiple offers from a local law enforcement partner to deploy drones. Not once, not twice, multiple times they declined it. Despite the fact that the shooter actually did use the drone technology to survey the rally just hours prior to his attempted assassination. Number 3, the Secret Service's Office of Protective Operations Manpower told the agents in charge of the security for the Butler facility not to request additional security resources because they would be denied anyways. So they preemptively discouraged the team from requesting additional resources. Okay, number 4, and that is shocking. I promise you. On the roof where the shooter, Thomas Crooks, assumed his shooting position and was ready to assassinate the former president, the law enforcement personnel was not even there. They abandoned the rooftop of American Glass Research Building. Guess why? Because of the hot weather. They said it was too hot for them to be on top of the roof. Now, any one of you who served in Iraq and Afghanistan in summer, or even have to do construction work anywhere in Texas or Washington, D.C., just imagine if you told your boss, oh, it's too hot, I'm just not going to work today, or I'm not going to fight today. I have, obviously, as a former DIA officer, I have plenty of friends who served in the military, including former special forces. And can you imagine if they decided to tell their commander, now we're not going to fight the Taliban, not today, too hot, too sandy, the sand is blowing into your eyes, blinding you. So, but apparently that's what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. The law enforcement agents deployed to the site had the nerve to abandon that building from which the shooter fired 8 rounds. They had the nerve to say it was too hot for them to be there. So they went inside just to make themselves comfy. Okay. Another one, something that I'm not too surprised about, but the Secret Service agent who was in charge, who was the lead agent on July 13th, had specific responsibility to secure the rally site, including the line of sight, was known to be incompetent, and I quote, incompetent, okay? And that incompetence manifested itself in the fact that flags were allowed around the Butler stage on the catwalk that impaired the visibility. Now, talking about incompetence, as somebody who served in the government, I attest to you that there's so many incompetent people that I am daily actually surprised that they're able to accomplish anything. And obviously not everyone. There are plenty of dedicated, honorable intelligence officers, military personnel, civilians who want to do the mission and who would move mountains and risk their lives. But the majority, the top management, are not only incompetent, they are also not brave. They're more concerned about following rules and procedures. And believe me, there are plenty of them. You can't get out of bed or out of your desk in the morning without breaking one of the rules. And so all those, the dead wood, they're worried not about the mission, but about following procedures. And oh boy, if you prioritize your mission vis-a-vis the procedures, they will come after you. And they have, after many, many people. DIA itself acknowledged at one point that the ratio of a manager to the actual worker, the person who does the mission, whether it's serving on the front line as an intelligence officer, collecting intelligence, debriefing your human sources, those are the people who give us secrets, risk their own life, give us secrets, betraying their own country. So the ratio of those people two people who sit at their desk and get a briefing, right? They get a briefing before the briefing before the briefing. We had 5 briefings. We call them murder boards, right? If I'm an intelligence officer who is about to brief a 4-star general, let's say on Russian warfighting strategy, there would be 5 different people who want to hear my briefing so that they learn something themselves, because they don't have the expertise in any topic really, because your expertise either atrophy, either you didn't have it in the first place, and a lot of people could not get a job, their own job. And again, there was a DIA review that acknowledged that the requirements for joining the DIA are now so high that a lot of people who served there could not have possibly gotten that job. So either they didn't have it in the first place, or it has atrophied because all they had to do is push papers, write reports, listen to briefing after briefing. So that's how that happened. So the lead agent was known for his incompetence, and nevertheless, he was assigned to protect former President Trump, who's the most targeted person in the world right now. And everyone knows that there has been a second assassination attempt within 60 days of the first one. Okay. And so, and finally, the final revelation is that the Supplementary Department of Homeland Security personnel were used to fill these shortages in Secret Service personnel. They're in Butler on July 13th. And some of those DHA agents who were pulled in to fill in for those shortages, they were pulled from child exploitation cases, okay? They lacked training. They had very, very minimal training, of very poor quality, that amounted to 2 hours of webinar. 2 hours of webinar. Again, something that doesn't surprise me as somebody who served in the DIA, the attitude in the government is that you are a body, that everybody is fungible, that there's no such a thing as an expert. Remember, in the rest of the US economy, and at least under capitalism, the most viable government system that causes prosperity vis-a-vis socialism that causes poverty. But under capitalism, right now, it's a knowledge economy. It means that most of the jobs that the US economy is thriving on, you have to use your knowledge, your brain. Even a lot of blue-collar jobs are something that used to be considered a blue-collar job. Let's say if you are a technician in a medical facility, you're required to use technology, so you become a knowledge worker, right? Or if you're in security, somebody can look at it as a blue-collar job, but now you have to be able to look at CCTV, interpret that data, collate that data, and come up with an analytic assessment. Okay, well, the government is oblivious that we are in the knowledge economy era. We're not in like blue-collar versus white-collar type of thing. It's a knowledge economy. So how does that affect the government performance? And again, I have personal experience with that. At the Pentagon, if you have a shortage, the chief of the unit says, "Give me a body." So what happens is, let's say yesterday you were an expert on China. Today they make you an expert on Russia. Tomorrow on Iran. Let's say a person who used to be deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan, Kosovo, came back, and then they need some downtime. They make you a China expert. I told you, the minute that the Chinese launched an anti-satellite test, conducted an anti-satellite test in 2007, that is actually a big deal that we can talk at one of other podcasts, because it presents a grave danger to our satellites on which we depend for every aspect of our warfighting. There were virtually no experts at DIA on Chinese space warfare doctrine. Okay, it's a very esoteric area. Well, they just made the experts overnight. They pulled them from other departments. So that's how it happens. Give me a body. I was shocked when I first heard that voice, having come from the private sector, from the industry, where I was always hired for my brain, for my knowledge. Not such a thing in the government. So therefore, incompetence is prevalent. Therefore, we have situation where somebody who did not qualify for their job was assigned to the site, and everybody remembers the female agent who couldn't possibly place her firearm back into the holster fast enough. And so this is the result. Right now, neither the FBI, nor the DHS, nor the Secret Service give the full cooperation to Senator Josh Hawley's office. They basically slow walking the investigation. There are a lot of questions that Senator Josh Hawley submitted to them. For example, who within the Secret Service or the DHS made the decision to deny counter-sniper coverage to the rooftop from which this shooter, Thomas Crook, shot the former president on July 13th? Who did that? Would be good to know, right? How many times was the site visited? Who visited the site and went? Who was in charge of securing the perimeter and things like that? So I highly encourage you to keep asking questions, because the deep state, if there's one thing that they're good at, they are good at hunting down whistleblowers and also denying Americans the ability to learn the truth. How do they do that? They're very good at hiding behind classification. So if there's something that they want us to know, they say, oh, it's classified. And this is why this guy, the whistleblower, had to go that route, is because, he couldn't just disclose the information openly to anybody, and Senator Josh Hawley has a security clearance. So, because if you disclose information, they'll go after you for mishandling the classified information. And then there's a whole another can of worms, and they have multiple ways to ruin your career. Thank you for joining me today. Check out the report. You will learn a lot more. I'll try to summarize it for you. Hopefully you found it useful. Follow me on social media at Rebecca0132, Twitter, Getter, True Social, and many others. Catch you later.